yesterday, but it happened. There's a difference between saying it and doing it, and Nebraska women's volleyball went out and did the damn thing last night, setting not just a college volleyball attendance record, not just a U.S. attendance record, but a world attendance record for a women's sporting event at 92,003 attending the women's volleyball match between them and Omaha at Memorial Stadium, where the Nebraska Cornhuskers football team plays. And Dad, you could see the sights and sounds from last night. An absolute electric factory as they packed that thing to the brim.
So it had to be such an incredible moment for those women, for the volleyball world, right? Because it's a situation where as football players, what we did, we were used to running out in front of crowds that big. Though I will say, the biggest crowd at Memorial Stadium in Nebraska,
talk about it,
was 91,000 plus. So this beat that. Again, you could put seats on the floor, which certainly can up the attendance. But this was bigger than the largest crowd at a Nebraska football game. But still, football players are used to going out in front of crowds that big. For these ladies, that had to be incredible experience. They came running out of the tunnel, Jesse. I mean, it had to be overwhelming for them.
Oh, they said, I mean, a couple of them were quoted afterwards, and they were like, we don't even know how to describe what just happened to us. Also, would love to point out, this was like a ticketed event. It was paid. You had to pay to get in. So it's not even like, you know, oh, it was free. You just had to show up. Like, you had to pay to get in. I saw something that said tickets were like $25 for adults, $5 for high school students, but some of the tickets were reaching like $400 on the secondary market.
The largest volleyball crowd before this involved Nebraska and Wisconsin, and it was back in December 2021. That was a little over 16,800. And now we're at 92,000.
And that was kind of the impetus for this. Nebraska and everyone here looked at that situation and said, all right, how can we do more? They talked about doing it in the basketball stadium there in Nebraska as well. And everyone involved, the athletic director, everyone said, why don't we think bigger? And this idea started to ruminate here. And remember what it turned into. It was a day off of class for everybody at Nebraska. It was the ability to sell alcohol in the stadium, which is not normally allowed there. They had a Scotty McCreery concert going on there. We saw the fireworks show go off after that. It was an incredible moment here for a Nebraska women's volleyball program that, again, is one of the premier programs in the country, 5th ranked in this season, owners of 5 national championships, and their legendary coach, John Cook, was pretty overwhelmed himself talking about what this moment meant after the game.
Yeah, you're going to make me cry right now. I mean, this is unbelievable. For women's athletics to do this in Nebraska, you know, we've dreamed big here tonight. We really dreamed big, and again, I think Kennedy Orr wrote me a note today and said, Coach, tonight we'll do the impossible will be possible. We did it. Our people did an unbelievable job setting the stadium up. I had no idea how much work goes into this, and they deserve a ton of credit. We got a great team here.
I know I asked you this before, but when you said offhandedly, maybe we'll do it at Memorial Stadium, can you believe you're here at this point now?
I still can't. I feel like we're at a rock concert or something. And the fans are fired up tonight. I mean, this is a party. It's awesome.
It really is a celebration, not just of Nebraska volleyball, but volleyball in Nebraska.
I think so. And you got to give credit to Nebraska Omaha and Wayne State and Kearney. But you're right, it's NAI, it's high school, it's club, it's Creighton. We got a lot of great volleyball in this state, and you're right, this was a celebration day for all the great players. It was so awesome seeing all the alumni here. I've never seen that many alumni before. It was unbelievable.
John, it doesn't happen without a vision. Congratulations on having the vision.
Thanks for Big Ten for being.
That gives me chills just watching that for them. And because I have still said, even through my 9 years in the NFL of running out of stadiums, nothing has matched the chills and the joy I got of running out of the tunnel at Notre Dame for college. So to do that in college is just so much fun. And that's, again, normally reserved for football. These ladies from the volleyball team, I mean, what an experience for them. And we know how big volleyball is in the Midwest. Wisconsin's #1 team in the country right now. Had a tough one against Arkansas last night, but they're obviously monstrous in this as Nebraska. It's what you do as a little kid, you know, and grow up to, and how popular that sport is. And I'm glad that dream came to fruition last night for them.
Their normal venue seats about 8,000 people where they play those games. The original 82,000 ticket allotment sold out in 3 days for this event, and they obviously brought in the extra seating, chasing that record with the extra space. What a great moment for that program. What a great moment for the continued it's not even the rise as much as it is the declaration. Women's sports has had so much to offer, has always offered so much, and is finally seeming to get the recognition of people going, well, yeah, no, if you build it and if you give it a platform, people are going to watch, people are going to come. We've seen that in ratings for televised games on ABC during the women's tournament in March Madness, and now we see it yet again resounding in a moment like this. Very, very cool for everybody involved. Big congratulations to everybody who pulled that off.
Jesse, you ever play in front of a crowd of 92,000 when you were playing
college lacrosse? No, I think maybe we got about 250 maybe on
250,000?
Yeah, no, 250 period.
We did find out you were the owner of the only straight red card in BC lacrosse history?
Yeah, I mean that was at the time. So maybe some girls came out and took that crown from me, but at the time, yes, I was.
Got a red card?
A red card. It was an accident.
Oh, stop it.
It was an accident.
It was an accident.
As all great penalties are.
Yes.
As all great penalties are.
And she's fine, for the record.
You checked in on her after? Are you guys still friends to this day?
I just wanted to make sure I didn't cause any permanent damage. She's fine. She's fine.
You gave her the Aaron Rodgers treatment? I don't even know who you are. Go over there and shove her in the dirt.
Wow.
Oh, my God.
She's fine after I stepped on her.
Yeah. You know, what can I say?
You can step over or you can step on.
Yeah.
Sometimes
choices
the path
were made.
is easier. Choices were made. We are GoJo and Golic. We're brought to you by Wrangler, made for the ride of life. Save 15% on your first Wrangler.com order with promo code GoJo15. Jesse, speaking of the ride of life, we had an interesting ride go on yesterday, a continuation of a ride around the Colts, Jonathan Taylor, and this mess of a situation.
I mean, just when you think it can't get messier, oh, brother, it does. It does. So we found out a couple things. First of all, we hear that the Colts were asking the Dolphins for Jalen Waddle and, just making some ridiculous requests there. But we also found out from Stephen Holder, that the Packers were in talks with the Colts and had legitimate interest in Jonathan Taylor. Guys, this feels like it just keeps getting twistier and windier. How do we feel about this, about, why the Packers are interested here? Because, Senior, you were saying you were pretty surprised that they were one of the teams.
Oh, I was very surprised that they were one of the teams. You got two dynamic backs in A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones rushed for more yards, caught more passes. But A.J. Dillon, I called a few Packer games last year, and he's quadzilla. If I had legs like that, I mean, dude is just monstrous.
I thought you were going to say you'd never wear pants. I was like, I'm pretty sure you're
going to say, I couldn't really go down.
I saw where you were going.
Road.
I saw the wheels turning, and I'm glad you pulled over on the off ramp.
Yeah, obviously they would have to move one of those running backs because Jonathan Taylor would be a great fit anywhere, but.
Which, to that point, Aaron Jones turns 29 in December, has 2 years left on the extension that he signed there. And A.J. Dillon is in the final year of his rookie deal right now, a guy who's, again, not a first rounder, so coming up on the end of that. So could have been a realistic situation where either of those guys, and if you're thinking of a trade partner, A.J. Dillon, the younger of the two, so thinking in running back terms, could have been someone, even though Brian Gutekunst says he was always going to be a Packer regardless of what happened here, didn't really get into too much of the situation, but tried to clearly smooth it over on the back end, saying we were always planning on him being around.
Oh, they were. And then, for Miami sitting there saying you wanted Jalen Waddle. I mean, just again, going to the point of they didn't really want to trade him. I mean, and I still, to this day, do not understand why they didn't sign him. It's not a monster contract. 3-year deal, 4-year deal, average 13, 14 mil a year. That's not a monster cap hit in today's game. And then you have him and Anthony Richardson, your rookie quarterback in that backfield. I don't get it. And I put this one on Jim Irsay. And I don't know how personal Taylor, well, we know how personally he took it, where the agent was involved. I guarantee you, Chris Ballard, who had to be the one in front of the cameras for all of this, I guarantee you he wanted to sign Jonathan Taylor. He wanted to give him the money.
Yeah, this is where it gets interesting, too, because now we've got Jonathan Taylor on the PUP list, so he's going to miss the first 4 weeks. That trade deadline comes up on Halloween, and is this something? Because Chris Ballard was very candid yesterday in saying, he came out and said, this sucks for the Colts, this sucks for Jonathan. This sucks more for Jonathan Taylor because y'all aren't going to pay him any money, and he's seeing the writing on the wall here. So we're all trying to find the guy who did this, Chris Ballard and the Indianapolis Colts. But now and he said, we've got to repair this relationship. He's not going to sit up there and lie and say that everything's sunshine and rainbows between the team and this particular player. And Dad, it's just going to be, does this relationship get repaired enough to where they can get him back in the building? Or does the Colts season go the way that many people think it could? Not great, first-year quarterback and Anthony Richardson, going to be maybe an up-and-down season. And is there a team like Green Bay who maybe all of a sudden starts to play a little bit better than expected with Jordan Love and company this year? Maybe the Miami Dolphins, who were talked about in all this, where now all of a sudden you get to the trade deadline and you feel like, hey, we're making a run for something this year. Is it worth it for us now to give up a little bit of draft capital to supplement with a player like this at that juncture of the season and go all in on this?
The trade deadline has turned into something. For the years I was doing radio and TV, you got to the football trade deadline, you just kind of laughed a little bit and moved on because nothing ever happened. And then we saw Christian McCaffrey and what the difference he made from Carolina to San Francisco. TJ Hawkinson leaving Detroit and going to Minnesota, the difference he made as well. So the trade deadline means something now. So I completely agree with you when we get to that point. But the one thing about relationships, you can always, and Chris Ballard said this, you can always repair a relationship. And I agree with that because money talks. At the end of the day, money talks.
But it doesn't seem like they're talking about the same money with him.
No, I agree. But the point is, the relationship would be repaired if they gave him a deal that he wanted. Because there are those that are saying, oh, we're past the point. No money is going to repair a relationship. That's bull. Money will always repair a relationship.
See Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens.
Exactly right. Guys that scrub their team from their Instagram and everything, and all of a sudden they get the pay they want, and it's back up again. The bridge is not burned anymore, it's repaired, and we're walking over it, holding hands, singing Kumbaya. So it can be repaired. I, for the life of me, don't understand what the Colts are doing in this situation.
And to that end, too, you saw part of this repair has been so much of this being done in public. And even yesterday, when Chris Ballard was leaving the podium and he was asked why you guys didn't pay him, and he said, we won 4 games last year. That's not helping.
Yeah.
None of this is helping.
Well.
Just say less in this situation if you're the Colts and you truly want to, because there's a difference of saying, hey, we know we've got to say publicly we want to smooth over this relationship, but actually caring enough privately to go about doing it. And it just seems like every opportunity along the way, the Colts have put their foot in their mouth publicly, led by their owner Jim Irsay, in making the player feel like, hey, we know exactly the situation you're in, and we're going to rub your nose in it.
I thought he actually handled the presser pretty well, because I think the underlying tone was, gang, I wanted to pay him. I wanted to pay him.
Y'all the same me. I got a boss too.
Yeah, but it's not my money, okay? My name's not on the check, but I wanted to pay him. But that last answer, as he was trying to leave, was probably his worst answer, saying we only won 4 games. Well, you fired your coach, you benched your quarterback that you brought, and there were a number of reasons you only won 4 games, and Jonathan Taylor wasn't one of them. Let me just say that. That answer.
And if he was, then that underscores the running back value conversation being so far out of whack if you're going to give him the credit for damning that team to 4 games. So got to pick a side somewhere on there. So the Jonathan Taylor situation gets a little bit of a muddy dismount because we do feel like this could be the end for a while. It is going to be interesting the fallout for some of the other teams that were mentioned and involved in this. For the Miami Dolphins, who Chris Greer came out, their general manager, and made it very clear, we were not going to trade Jalen Waddle for anything under any circumstances. They've also got some interesting money situations here. Not broaching a long-term deal yet with Christian Wilkins, their star defensive tackle, or Tua Tagovailoa. And, Dad, Christian Wilkins, I think, is going to get something done eventually. He's in his 5th-year option there this year. Was one of the best D tackles in football last year. Going to be playing in what we think is one of the best defenses under Vic Fangio this year. The Tua situation is fascinating to me. Well, when you look at the year he's coming up on now, one of the most pressurized situations for a quarterback in football. They picked up his 5th-year option for next year. But, Dad, we've seen this with the Shanahan-McVay coaching tree guys. They all kind of got handed, that young group of coordinators that all came up under Mike Shanahan, they all got kind of handed different quarterback situations, right? You look at Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco and what he walked into. Jimmy Garoppolo, amorphous blob, he thinks he can make anybody work there. You had Sean McVay step into Jared Goff, revive his career, decide he wasn't enough, win a Super Bowl with Matthew Stafford. Matt LaFleur gets a Hall of Fame quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, now making the transition here. Mike McDaniel's situation in Miami feels a lot like what Sean McVay walked into, having to get this reclamation project, tell Tua how great he is, put that 700 rip cut up on display, and now getting to the point where this feels like the year where they're going to decide, is this the guy we walk into the future with, or is this our version of Jared Goff where we learned this season, hey, we've got a great roster around us, and now we've got to upgrade at this position if we feel like we're going to accomplish the things we want to.
So I remember going into last year's season, two guys we were talking about was Jalen Hurts and Tua.
Yeah.
Are they going to prove that they're the quarterbacks? And by the way, Jalen did, and Tua was.
Yeah.
Until he got his head bounced off the turf, and that whole situation got handled horribly. So now we fast forward to this year. Again, they picked up the fifth-year option. He's in his fourth year to see, okay, can he get back and do what he was doing early in the season? And more importantly, cross your fingers, can he stay healthy? Because remember, he came in with a hip from Alabama, so he's had some injury issues.
Which feels unfair in a way because they were catastrophic freak moments, right? That hip injury was a car accident injury. Right. The concussion situation, that it's different than a soft tissue injury or the things that we normally
he's never played
ascribe.
more than 13 games in his
exactly.
season.
Yeah.
You know?
And no matter what the injury is, you know what the management says, well, blah, 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 blah,
yeah.
you've been injured, you know. So
right.
Let's see. And they've also said they're not doing any new deals once the season starts.
Yep.
And the players know that and the agents know that, so you understand once the season starts, all that is going to be put to the side.
Yeah, so for Tua, big-time stuff there. Christian Wilkins will be interesting. Entirely new scheme now under Vic Fangio.
Yeah.
You're going from that one high, blitz every down, fire through one gap to now something that's going to be a little bit different scheme-wise there. Fascinated to see how Christian Wilkins responds and thrives in that, but we will all be paying attention to that as we get going. But mercifully, thankfully, whatever God you ascribe to, we got real football getting ready to kick off next weekend. That will make that happen. Coming up, though, we've also got real basketball being played right now outside of track stars arguing for the viability of a world championship. USA getting it done on the big stage. My dream of Anthony Edwards continuing his rise continues to move up. But coming up next, let's talk about maybe one of the voices of college football this upcoming season. Maybe.
It's a
someone
surprise.
we can see singing the anthem at a game this weekend.
We couldn't agree more. This is your...
Maybe that sound justified too.
Maybe.
We don't know. It's
coming.
week one and we're figuring this all out on the fly here. Stick with us. We got a lot more coming up here. GoJo and Golic right here on the DraftKings Network.
Welcome back to GoJo and Golic. I'm Jesse Cofield. Football is just days away. The NFL kicking off, and we cannot wait. So here's what's cooking at DraftKings Network to help get you ready.
Football needs to hurry the heck up.
We couldn't agree more. This is your invite to a jam-packed week of preseason shows featuring our brightest football minds.
We really need to talk about this.
Yeah, I'm down to do that.
Join us for our Hurry Up House Party. Tune in and ball out as our hosts drop fantasy, betting, and fan need-to-knows. That way, you'll be more than ready at our live Thursday kickoff show from Kansas City. Watch all the shows on Samsung TV Plus or listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Starts Thursday, August 31st on DraftKings Network.
Guys, there was some intrigue with the Bengals leading into the season. We hadn't seen Joe Burrow at practice since, July 27th here? But he's back, baby. He's back. So are we not worried about this anymore? I mean, were we worried about it to begin with?
Well, the only thing I would be worried about was the injury. I'm not worried about the contract.
Right, the contract whispers.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that. Cincinnati knows exactly where they have to go. And Joe Burrow seems like he is fine with where they're going to go. He's going to be the highest paid quarterback until the next quarterback comes up. You know, it was Deshaun, it was Lamar, it was Justin Herbert,
Jalen Hurts mixed in there. Yeah,
it's just going to go there, and I think he's going to be fine with it. I was happy to see no sleeve on the calf, and because soft tissue injuries at the beginning of the season are so worrisome of that coming back. So that's my only worry. I have zero worry about contract. Him not having a contract, him thinking about holding on, I don't think that is in the air at all for him and Cincinnati. I think that's going to get done. The only thing to worry about is a soft tissue injury, coming back from that and not re-injuring that.
Yeah, because that's been, I mean, we talked about this a lot with Lamar Jackson. We just mentioned it with Tua. Like, Joe Burrow and injury going back to his first year is a thing that's popped up. And that's been the worry behind that offensive line that's gotten completely rebuilt now. You added Orlando Brown this offseason as what they hoped was the last capstone on a group that they had gone to work on last year and gotten some positive results from, but now this is supposed to be the step forward they take, so he's not getting sacked 60-plus times a year, 70 times in a season, and keeping that injury concern lesser and lesser. He can do a lot of things mobily for you, so you did worry about that with the calf too. That wasn't one we were as worried about here. Dad, the other side, and their parts in the compatriots in the AFC, the Chiefs are hopeful that Chris Jones is going to be back before week 1, but man, I don't see any signs of this thing stopping. We haven't heard any meaningful progress on this deal.
Nothing at all. And you know what you're going to have to pay the guy. You're going to have to pay him, obviously, a boatload of money. They know that. He knows that. It's just, and we all know how it is. It's a matter of where you meet. But how many games does he miss? Now, it's more important to have him at the end of the season because I think, he wouldn't go past week 8 because there's past the weeks of the year that counts for you, so you don't have to play the year over, blah, blah, all that technical stuff. He would play some this year. How much does it hurt him in the beginning? It hurts him to not have him on the field. But if he's there, let's play worst case scenario, he's there for the last half of the season in the playoffs, I think you're going to be fine. Again, what I worry about for anybody that's not starting the season off is you can train and you can prepare, but you can't prepare for football. So it takes a while, and the biggest worry, again, is soft tissue injuries. And you get a soft tissue injury, like if Joe Burrow, for some reason, starts this season, you see him roll out and pull up again, he's gone for 3, 4, 5 weeks. I mean, he's gone for that. So that's the worry with a soft tissue injury, because you need to let it heal fully, so the less chance of it coming back on you. And that would be my biggest worry about Chris Jones. I still think they're a playoff team, even if he misses half the year. It'd be interesting because it's obviously a very deep division and conference, but I would worry about him then getting into the playing shape he needs.
It's almost interesting thinking about a lot of these top-end teams that have been the perennial players at the top of the AFC. The Bills are a great example. Von Miller right now, right? Not going to be ready to go for the beginning of the season here. Likely going to wean him back. How much does that really matter? The beginning of the NFL season since the 2011 CBA, the first 4 games, have sort of felt like an extended preseason. We've talked about guys still gelling, especially on the offensive lines of scrimmage. And if you know you're playing every year for a deep run in the postseason, and you've got a couple of your important pieces, like, let's take Von, for example. Mid-30s, a guy who's coming off a knee injury, who you brought in specifically to slam the door in the postseason. You want him to be the guy defenses or offenses have to account for up front when the football matters most. You've got a great roster around him in so many other places. If you're a team like the Buffalo Bills, why are you going to worry about what happens in the first few games of the season when you know your goals at the end? You want him rested. You want him as healthy as possible for that stretch run, get him ready in November and December, and then have him playing his best football in January and hopefully into February when you want to be out there on the field. Chris Jones now, a little bit more, I think, integral overall, younger, more potent production, and really more relied upon in the middle of the Kansas City defense that just does not have the dogs to hunt behind him on that depth chart and defensive line.
I agree. With Von Miller, it's a little more spot play. He's in a tougher division, though, right?
Yes.
With Miami and the Jets now, where they build, whereas Chris Jones in Kansas City, even if he misses those 8 games, where is the challenge coming from? The Chargers, from the Raiders, from the Broncos?
But with these teams, it's also all about that 1 seed in the AFC.
Exactly,
and we've seen the road for Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes has never had to play a road playoff game. And so that swirling around in all of this, and I'm sure they'll say they don't care, but man, especially in this day and age where the expanded postseason now, you only get 1 team getting that first round bye. That 1 seed is as valuable as it's ever been, and so that's certainly got to be in the back of the mind for all these teams.
I agree. Just for the fact that you want Chris Jones on your team for the coming years. We're talking about this year, but you want that long-term deal. You want him here. He's the most disruptive. He and Aaron Donald, when Aaron Donald has not been injured and playing his game, is the most disruptive D-tackle in the league. And then there's Chris Jones, who's 6'6". Now you have a taller guy being disruptive, pushing the pocket, getting in the quarterback's face. I mean, he's an absolute terror in the middle of that D-line. And as a former guard and center, that's the worst place a quarterback hates pressure because of all the garbage in front of their feet. And that's what Chris Jones does best.
Yeah, absolute nightmare fuel there. Speaking of quarterbacks, one quick note before we head out of here to talk some basketball. Our national nightmare is over here in the Northeast. Bailey Zappi. Back, baby.
Is Charlotte okay? Have we checked in?
I feel like we do need to send like a carrier pigeon to her or something to let her know life's going to be okay
Wellness
now.
update.
Yeah. They have brought back Mac Jones's clone. They're going to make sure he is still the backup quarterback there. Bill Belichick hasn't lost his fastball completely yet.
He hasn't. I mean, at one point, Mac Jones, he and the quarterback coach could have held their meetings in the Dunkin' Donuts because it was just he and the coach, and that was it. Now the quarterback room has some more players in it. So it did work. We were all wondering, would anybody pick them up? Malik Cunningham has been fun to watch, and now that you can use an emergency quarterback as well this year to not count against that 46. So you wondered, but Bill still got his fastball, but he does need to get his team back to the playoffs.
Yeah, that would also be a nice way to go about things. But as you mentioned, that division
it's going to be tough.
You've got the actual real offensive coordinator back there this year working with Mac Jones.
That's got to help Mac Jones, right? I mean, this is a big year for Mac Jones. We keep talking about quarterbacks for different reasons, getting a big deal for their legacy or just to be the quarterback of the future for a team. And that's where Mac Jones is, right? I mean, now that he's going to have a real OC.
So much of the reason we're a little more lenient in the Mac Jones conversation is because we ascribed so much of last year to one of the more head-scratching coaching decisions made by anyone we've seen in a long time, let alone Bill Belichick, who we said has been the poster for the coach in the NFL most likely to be given the benefit of the doubt. The GM in the NFL most likely to be given the benefit of the doubt. Inexplicably brings back 2 of his old guys to coach a position they've never coached before for a quarterback still in his developmental years as a second-year player and now trying to revive that this year. It just feels like one of those weird detours. You stop over on the highway, you see something you weren't expecting, and then you pull back onto the road and you go, all right, let's leave that behind and go on to greener pastures.
But I think this year for New England, I don't know what your thought is. I don't think they make the playoffs, but I think it's a year to find out if Mac Jones is going to be that guy going forward, and you start what the building you're doing is around his assets and what his talents are at the quarterback position, because I don't think they're making the playoffs.
No, I don't think they have the offensive firepower overall to do that. Defensively, that should be one of the best units in football yet again this season. Bill Belichick continues to build a monster on that side of the football, so don't worry about that. But again, cooler heads prevail. Bailey Zappi, Malik Cunningham, both back. The practice squad lighting it up for the New England Patriots. Coming up next, though, let's look at someone who is lighting it up for Team USA and play a little bit of the name game here. A fascinating situation in the NBA comes to an end and prompts an important question for our crew here.
You're watching GoJo and Golic, and Team USA continues to roll in the FIBA World Cup. Their most recent W coming over Jordan. Not such a thriller in Manila, but Anthony Edwards is thrilling. He's confident, putting up 22 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists. And now his sights are set on what is next.
I think we're gonna win. Yeah, we unbeaten also. So yeah, I think we got a great chance of winning. We got a great coaching staff. We got great players. Yeah, and our confidence is at an all-time high. So we're not really worried about those guys.
I like the idea that Anthony Edwards' confidence is never at an all-time high.
Yeah, he's always operating up here.
He really is.
Like
yeah.
maybe the rest of the team finally met him where he just lives permanently. Because if you've ever heard that man speak, he famously, coming into the NBA as a rookie, talked about how great he'd be as a baseball player, all these different things that he could do, because nobody walks into the party with more self-confidence than the Ant-Man. I love that.
But he's already looking ahead.
So he was asked about Lithuania,
Lithuania,
who is also undefeated in the FIBA World Cup right now.
Right.
They play Montenegro next.
on Friday.
Now, it sounded like there was a bit of a language barrier with the reporter asking the question. He was trying to clarify there, but also that's just how he gets down. Why wouldn't he think?
Flying too close to the sun, though, you know what happens when you overlook an opponent.
He is being who he is, though. He didn't say anything where we go, oh my God, I can't believe he said that.
Yep.
This is who he is. So you want him. If you're a reporter, that's who you want at the presser. That's who you want in front of the microphone. But as far as the team play, they just smoked Jordan, as we said. Montenegro on Friday, Lithuania on Sunday. If they win both those games, they'll be the #1 seed going into the quarterfinals. And also, both those teams coming up each have a center in the NBA. Montenegro has one in Chicago, and Lithuania has one in New Orleans. So Steve Kerr messed around with a bigger lineup during their win over Jordan if they're going to have to go down that road for these games. But they're doing it. As Anthony Edwards said, we're undefeated too, and just put a microphone in front of his face and let's go.
Okay.
Yep. Steve Kerr, who has been doing a great job as the head coach for this outfit, was also asked about that. I think winced a little bit because you know how these coaches are. They're wired to never want to overlook anybody, never want to get anyone bulletin board material, but I think water finds its level when he understands, hey, what this guy is doing, not only offensively, but defensively. Everyone raving about what Anthony Edwards has been able to do for this team. He seems to be making that ascension to the next level. Hopefully that continues to carry over so we can be the world champions and satisfy everybody's desires in the world of basketball.
Our national nightmare will finally be over.
Yeah, yes, it will.
Just do it.
Again, our own guy did that. Our own athlete on track and field.
Be your own guy sometimes. Speaking of things that are over now, Jesse,
boy.
It appears that we are finally turning the page on one really ugly situation for the NBA.
Yeah, this is really an all-time story here. So NBA ref Eric Lewis was under investigation for having a burner account that would argue with fans and defend refs. So the NBA then came out with a statement saying, Eric Lewis has informed the league office that he is retiring effective immediately in light of his decision. The NBA's investigation into social media activity has been closed. So interesting, so nice. We don't have to go any further with this, but we did get some gems out of it. My favorite part is that the name of the burner account was Blair Cutliff. That's what he went with.
That Blair Cutliff owns a boat.
Yes.
And Summers and Martha's Vineyard.
100%, and says Summers.
Blair Cutliff. Well, first off, do we have an issue with a burner to defend? I mean, we went through the whole burner thing with Kevin Durant, right? And everybody scratches their head and said, you're Kevin Durant. You're the best basketball player in the world. Why do you care, what some guy with 10 numbers after his name says about you on the basketball court? We all wonder that, and now the same with the NBA ref, to where, I thought he had a burner maybe for different reasons that the NBA really wouldn't have liked.
Yeah.
But here he's just kind of defending himself and refs. You still got to say, dude, I mean, quit being so thin-skinned,
I was going to say, it's more sad than it is bad or anything like that. Like if you start to use it to take shots at other players and things like that. Kevin Durant ended up morphing into, I think, one of the premier internet athletes of the modern era, a guy that will routinely jump into Twitter Spaces and chop it up with fans, now just has it out on his main account, has really grown into himself on his internet after a bit of a rough start. We're never going to get to see that now with this particular referee and Eric Lewis. he'll just maybe get to tweet on Maine now. Maybe that's what you do is you make that your thing going forward if you're Aris Lewis, and you just go official NBA ref defender and tweet from Maine.
So my initial reaction to this was, I have a problem with it. Say it with your chest. Say it from your main account. But then it's kind of like, was he going to get in trouble with the NBA, right?
If he started doing that,
you know, in trouble as a ref if he's getting on
the
Twitter?
The same way that coaches get fined if they're out here publicly criticizing officiating?
So that's the only part of it that I kind of was like, well, he probably wanted to say from his main, but was self-preservation for his job. Obviously, did not work out so well.
Do you think they kind of came to him and they're like, hey, man, listen, this is probably going to get worse before it gets better? You're probably ready to be done, right?
100%.
And to think you can get away with a burner account now, right? Everything gets found out, doesn't it? I mean, I don't know. I would have no idea how to do it or any of that.
Did he have a burner
lost.
phone? Was he like tweeting from his burner phone?
Yeah.
Like, clearly not, because he got caught.
Yeah, no. Well, listen, to Dad's point now, in the age of TikTok and Reddit, you ain't getting away with anything.
No,
That's
nothing.
Just not how the game goes.
But what would be
anymore.
your burner account name?
Yeah, this is the best.
Yeah.
So Blair Cutliff again
Yeah.
was a fantastic name. Anytime I've had to use like a pen name or something like that, where you're playing like a game and they ask you to type in a name, I've always gone with, I think, Mark Schlereth, former NFL offensive lineman, our former coworker.
Played against him many times.
I forget if it was Guiding Light or Days of Our, like one of those
one of the
daytime soap operas
that he was on.
you guys all had a good stretch where you would go on as side characters.
Yeah, me and Greeny would go on in there, yeah.
Mark went on there and had, to this day, my favorite pseudonym I've ever heard, Rock Hoover.
Yeah.
So
It's a
great
anytime
name.
I've got to give a fake name, it is Rock Hoover.
It's Rock Hoover?
Yes.
Jesse?
I mean, that's a good. I've never really been in a position where I had to give a fake name, but I think I would go with Rita Skeeter.
Rita Skeeter?
Oh, man, shout out Wingardium Leviosa in this thing, Harry
Potter.
Oh, God,
Had
here
to
we
bring
go
in
again.
some Harry Potter. She is an infamous gossip reporter for the Daily Prophet.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Or not
well,
even the Daily Prophet. I think she was in some more scandalous.
Yeah, no, it was one of those like rag mags that you see up near the checkout counter or the grocery store near Hogsmeade Village.
I've known when I was been doing in this media business for a while, I've known some of the stars in the media business when they've gone to different hotels have used different names to not use their own. And then obviously for other ways you can use this type of name. I would go with Don Quixote.
Oh.
Really?
Don Quixote.
A classic.
Well, I mean, it is a classic Spanish novel, Don Quixote. From the
Quixote.
I call it Quixote.
Don Quixote?
Quixote, whatever. I just have to spell it. I have to say it a lot. It's a novel about a Spanish person in the lowest nobility dreaming about bringing chivalry back to his country and becoming a knight. But more importantly, it's a Gordon Lightfoot song.
See, that's what this.
That's it. That's why. It's a Gordon Lightfoot song.
That's why.
Through
Got
the woodlands, through the valley, comes a horseman wild and free, tilting at the windmills passing. Who can the brave young horseman be? Okay, I'll stop. But Don Quixote.
You could keep going if you wanted to.
I'm
Great song.
surprised you didn't go Edmund Fitzgerald.
No, that was another person I worked with. Used Edmund Fitzgerald when he checked into hotels.
I see. I feel like that's one, too. Like, I'm assuming in your age demographic, if you're checking into hotels in the prime of your career, there's not going to be a lot of folks working at the desk that are probably going to get a Gordon Lightfoot reference.
That's probably
here,
true.
Or an Edmund Fitzgerald
That's
reference
probably,
mixed in here.
Yeah.
Probably not in the way, especially now. Like, you wouldn't be able. I don't know if we've reached that portion of nostalgic online presence for the Gen Z kids where they're going to go back and make Gordon Lightfoot
depends
popular.
on who's behind, the counter at the hotel. Is it someone from our generation where you
That's
say it and you
fair.
go, Edmund Fitzgerald, really? Or Don Quixote, really? Okay.
Don Quixote.
Not
Quixote. What was the cheese at the restaurant last night?
Oh, I don't know. I don't
Cotija?
know. It was spelled really.
Oaxacan?
Oaxacan.
Yeah.
The spelling of it.
Yeah, it's not. That's
It
not.
looked like
you can't sound
Oxananin
that
or
one out.
something.
Trying
It was-
to explain
You can't.
Oaxacan cheese to my father.
It wasn't even spelled
You
even
can't
close
sound
to
that
that.
one out. Yeah, you can't sound that one out. No.
How do you do that?
I mean, you got to kind of know. And
It looked like-
that's one of those you got to
ask
get
the
wrong
waiter.
once before you're ever going to get
Well,
right.
I'm
You
glad.
just point to it.
I'm
for the
glad I
waiter.
didn't say it to her. I would have said Oxananin or whatever,
Yeah.
and that she would have laughed at me.
My God in heaven. All right, let's get away from cheese and to
Why?
maybe some of that high cheese here. Someone in the city you know all too well getting to a major milestone in his career next.
This is it, guys. You are looking at the moment. Bryce Harper hit a moonshot for home run number 300. He's had a hot August, okay? Homered in 3 straight games for the second time this month, has 10 homers in August. Also, very cool moment here. He homered against Matt Moore, and Harper and Moore were 1 and 2 among Baseball America's top prospects in 2012. Now, Senior, you played in Philly.
Yep.
The fans are talked about often, but Bryce Harper, he's thriving in front of the Philly fans.
Oh, he has that attitude.
Yeah.
He definitely has that Philly mentality. He signed that, in 19, signed a 13-year, $330 million deal. But he lives right in that. I mean, I've talked about most of my career was in Philly, and those fans, man, the old vet in the 700 level, we'll just leave that one alone, some of the things that went on up there. But they're fans that will let you know if they don't like what you're doing. But they'll also appreciate you in your work ethic, if you're that guy, that lunch pail carrying guy. And Bryce Harper, while he has been a star all his life, remember him on the cover of magazines at like 17 years old, he has been a star, but he's also been that worker. He's been that guy as well. So he fits that mold in Philly. So he thrives on that, I think, what the reaction, because I'm sure he's gotten bad reaction and good while you're in Philly. That's what it is. Nobody who ever played in Philly always got a great reaction all the time. There are times you definitely get booed.
I feel like Bryce Harper's general attitude is what Nick Sirianni put on his vision board when he was figuring out how to cater to the Philadelphia crowd, because Nick Sirianni has done an unbelievable job, whether it is natural or a bit of pandering, which I expect it is.
Yeah.
His public persona on the sidelines for Philadelphia Eagles, shouting at other fans, talking in the offseason about the teams they're going to beat in the division, the way he's carried himself, he's been fiery, he's been brash. It's always felt very Bryce Harper, which has always felt very quintessentially Philadelphia. Stepping up in big moments, too, got one of the biggest postseason home runs in Philadelphia history. All of those things, combined with being a guy that's going to kind of be big and loud, is sort of Philly's love language.
He is, and a Philly athlete firing back at times at Philly fans. You know what they don't do in Philly, guys like that, is use burner accounts.
Yeah.
They have no problem saying, I'm saying this to you, and have no problem with it. I once walked after a fan who was, during one of our games, our punt returner was struggling, muffed a couple of punts, and there was a guy wearing, and he was sitting on the bench, and I went over just to say, hey, it's okay, blah, 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 as other guys were. And there was a dude saying every word in the book to him, wearing him out. And I did the thing that I always say don't do.
Yep.
Do not acknowledge the fan saying something. But it was my teammate, so I did. I looked up, and I had a few choice words for him. And, of course, he's a Philly fan, so he had some choice words for me. And I just started walking at him. And I'm like, and I'm doing it.
Hold me back.
I'm doing it not thinking, and I had no problem if he didn't hold me back, because I would have kicked the crap out of the dude. But how dumb was it for me to be walking toward him to the point where A cop who was there stepped in front of me, so he blocked my view of him and just looked at me and said, Mike, just turn around, not worth it, we'll take care of it. And at that moment, I kind of blinked and went, yeah, this is pretty dumb what I'm doing. There's no way I should be black
Thank you,
back
officer. Thank you, officer.
Yes, thank you
Appreciate
very
your help.
much.
I will turn around
This
now.
is a dumb thing to do, but you know, that's what, you know, Bryce Harper would confide. That's just the type of personality he has. So 158th player to have 300 home runs, 12th active player. And, you know, Philly's sitting there at the top of the wild card spot right now, so the season going well.
Yeah, very cool moment for Bryce Harper. Again, a guy who, kind of like we talked about, Joel Embiid figured out how to be that quintessential Philadelphia athlete, what people wanted from you as a star, the things there. Bryce Harper, ever since he came over, also been one of those guys that has felt like a very natural culture fit in that spot. Jesse, culture in Washington, under change, under a little bit of a facelift. With the exception of one area right now, apparently we heard yesterday from team president Jason Wright.
Yeah, Commanders team president Jason Wright says the team will not consider going back to the old team name. It is not being considered, period. So the commies, love it or hate it, people, it is here to stay. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. I think most people would like it to leave, but it is not going anywhere. What is with the decision to just... At this point, do you just have to like dig your feet in and be like, well, we didn't choose this, but we gotta stay with it. We can't be flip-flopping?
Maybe it's one of those things, just kind of simplifying the equation before the season here. You've had so much noise around this Washington program. We talked about the comments that Ron Rivera has made publicly this offseason, yesterday most recently, talking about his quarterback and Sam Howell, who he wished he'd played earlier. We had the weird thing in camp with Eric Bieniemy, reportedly, you know, Ron Rivera talking about players coming to him, saying they were being coached too hard by Eric Bieniemy, and the weird decision to come out and mention that publicly. And so maybe this is just nipping it in the bud now, getting that out of the way, so God forbid Washington could just focus on football for a little bit.
There you go, right there. Everybody take the breath. Let's not talk about anything but the start of the season, okay? You got a big season coming up. Every game is important. You got a new OC, you know, a new year. Everybody's 0-0. There's hope everywhere. So let's not talk about this. OC's working us too hard. Do we change the name? We had the change of ownership. It was like you know, like getting that new car smell, putting up the pine tree in there and getting the stink out of your old car, and Daniel Snyder gone, and getting that new
like
car
saging.
smell. Exactly. So you got the new car smell. You got new hope there with the new ownership. So ownership on down. Let's just play football now. Let's take a breath. Let's breathe. Let's play the season. Let's play, and then we'll start worrying about that again. Because in all honesty, I hope they change the name again. I hope they get off the Commanders at some point. But this isn't the time to talk about it.
No, because quite honestly, while they have definitely saged and exorcised the demons in this place in the form of Daniel Snyder, and cannot be overstated how much the head rots the rest of the fish in these cases. But they've still got very real question marks. Ron Rivera is got to be number one on the list of coaches people think could be fired in the middle of the
I think
season.
he's on the hot seat. Everybody always puts Mike McCarthy on the hot seat, you know, fairly or unfairly, and at times it seems ridiculous.
And Mike McCarthy now taking back over as play caller. It's the Dallas Cowboys. It's a different level there, but for Ron Rivera, it's been terrible quarterback situations, his hopes and dreams now pinned to Sam Howell, but a situation, too, where you got Eric Bieniemy kind of sitting in the wings there, who's always wanted to be a head coach and is now your offensive coordinator. And if that goes sideways, he may get to it faster than anticipated.
Well, think about that, though, if the season doesn't go well and if Ron Rivera did get released and they didn't hire Eric Bieniemy as the head coach. Remember, he's been out doing interviews and not getting head coaching jobs, and other minorities have been getting head coaching jobs. He hasn't. So if a different head coach came in and got a whole new staff, Eric Bieniemy, because everybody's saying, okay, now he's calling the plays because he wasn't doing that in Kansas City. So he's able to, which is no reason to not make him a head coach, because there's plenty of other OCs that weren't calling plays that got head coaching job. See the OCs for Sean McVay with the Rams and where they're coaching now when they weren't calling plays. So
or other OCs in Kansas City that were in the same exact job.
Matt Nagy, you know, so that's not the prerequisite, but it would be odd if he finally got the chance to call plays. It didn't work out there from a team standpoint, and Rivera got let go, and a different head coach came in and wiped the squad out, and then Bieniemy would be on the move again. It would be kind of an odd situation, but let's just let him play ball. I think the defense is going to be really good this year for them. And let's see, as I said earlier, I think Sam Howell and Jordan Love, two quarterbacks that are not established, I thought had two of the best preseasons for quarterbacks. Now, what that means going in to the regular season, we'll see. But I liked both what seemed to be their comfort level in the pocket.
Yeah, I think I would liken him more, and Sam Howell, you're right, probably performed more in line with Jordan Love. But I think situationally, he's in more of the Desmond Ridder situation, where because you don't have that number one next to your draft pick slot, your future's a little less certain than Jordan Love, who is now going to get every chance for this Green Bay Packers team to try and make something happen, whereas Desmond Ridder at the center of that Atlanta offense feels like, man, if you don't show returns, there's so much excitement about the rest of that, they're going to look for somebody there. And for Sam Howell, your whole coaching staff, if you don't play well, is probably going to get cleaned out, and then you're really up a creek.
We had that with Davis Mills, with the Texans, right? He got the chance to take over that team and take control, and it didn't go the way he wanted, so they obviously bring in another quarterback right at the top of the or number 2 pick in the draft. So you're right. You're right about Desmond Ridder. You're right about Sam Howell. They weren't the number one guy, so let's see what they can prove out there. Where Jordan Love is going to get every opportunity in the world.
They all got that Brock Purdy poster up on the wall somewhere going, this too can be me. I will say the one thing I'm glad Washington doesn't show any signs of changing is their lovely piggy mascot, Major Tuddy, down on the sideline. Big fat pig with a great helmet on there. Don't you ever touch that sweet Prince of Peace. But we're talking about culture. Coming up in the next hour, we're going to look at a number of things as we get ready for college football this weekend, including maybe the biggest coaching name talking culture next.
Welcome back to GoJo and Golic, brought to you by Wrangler, made for the ride of life. Save 15% on your first Wrangler.com order with promo code GoJo15. Okay, let's talk about Deion Sanders, okay? When he was hired at Colorado, he basically overhauled that entire roster. We heard all the quotes that came out about that process, and it's led to a lot of questions from people about what the culture is going to be like for this team going forward as they try to rebound from a 1-11 finish to the 2022 campaign. And here's what he had to say about the culture. I'm not welcoming to that word culture. That's all I heard when I was in Jackson. Culture, 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 culture. Now culture, culture. What the heck does that mean? So I think it's safe to say that Deion's not a fan of the word culture, but I feel like it's not out of pocket for people to be asking. I mean, this quote continued afterwards, and he said, "I don't care if these guys don't like each other." Like, he has, you talk a lot about locker room and the vibe and everything, and apparently he doesn't care what the vibe is.
Listen, I think what culture is, what's the line we use all the time, Mike? A team takes on the personality of their coach. That's your culture.
Yeah.
That's your culture right there. And if he says, I don't care if guys in the locker room like one another, that vibe is sent down. And I've always been that. I've said it all the time. I don't care whether I was in high school, college, or the NFL. Not everybody in the locker room got along. My line was always, not everybody's holding hands and singing Kumbaya. It doesn't work that way. There are guys I didn't like and didn't like me, but when you get on the field, you play together. Now, is it better if everybody kind of gets along and hangs out and all that? Sure, that's great.
And he's said as much. He's like, it's not like this isn't a close team.
He said, I've been on some teams where the quarterback didn't like the receiver, but they darn sure made harmony when the ball was.
That's exactly right. So that, to me, is culture. It's the personality, especially in college. It's the personality of the coach and what type of team he wants, especially he bleeds that down to the leaders and they to the rest of the locker room there. The issue with Colorado is they have, 60 transfers?
53.
53 transfers?
Only 10 players, scholarship players from that 2022 roster are still there.
He's got a whole, now he knew some of them that came with him from where he was at Jackson State, and others did not. So there's a whole getting used to. You know, when you get a new coach and new players in the NFL, it's a little bit different. These guys are professionals now. A lot of the schemes, while are not exactly the same, terminology is different. You can pick it up. But these are 18 to 22-year-olds. It's a little more difficult to now have a lot of guys coming in from different places to learn the one language together. Plus, it's not going to be a great team. They're going to get smoked a lot this year. I mean, everybody says, is Deion under the most pressure? No, not this year. Because it's about putting together and what he's going to build there. They're going to get stomped this year by a lot of teams. But it's about what you see during some of these games of saying, okay, I see something positive there to look forward to. But be careful if you're a Colorado fan or alum. I mean, it ain't happening this year. It's just not.
And you know what? It's funny here. Obviously, everything Deion says is going to be magnified so much because it's Deion, and he courts that kind of attention. That's what's helped jumpstart so much of the interest in this Colorado program. But he's not really saying anything that we haven't heard Lane Kiffin say not too long ago, which is, in this era, it's a lot harder to be focused on culture. You're trying to microwave results, and that's what Deion's trying to do here. So he's said it in a way and done it in a way, flipping people, basically cutting guys after the spring game in a way that feels unsavory, but as college football becomes more of a business like the NFL, this is going to be more and more of what we see. But speaking of the start of college football, it's going to look and sound a little different going into this year. We've got College Game Day heading to North Carolina, South Carolina this week in Charlotte at Bank of America Stadium. And we are excited to welcome in not only one of the foremost alums of South Carolina, but also a man you're going to hear a lot more of this season. And that's saying a lot because you hear him everywhere already. Country music superstar Darius Rucker joining us now, who is also one of the new voices of the Coming to Your City College Game Day anthem heading into this fall. Darius, what's going on, brother?
Can y'all hear me?
We got you now, D. What's going on, man? How are you?
What's happening, you guys? I'm so mad at y'all.
Why are you mad? Because we beat you in the bowl game last year? Is that why?
Exactly. Still not talking to you, Golic.
I was going to say, so last year that we went to the Gator Bowl and we got to watch with Darius. Darius, where would you say in like the worst experiences of your life was having to watch a Notre Dame win with us against your team?
Man, when we were beating you guys for 3 quarters, it was so awesome. And then you guys started to win, and y'all were jerks.
Oh, yeah, that's good because you weren't being a jerk at all.
Yeah, no,
so,
exactly.
Yeah.
You were
Not at all. I was so nice.
one of the best winners out there.
Yeah.
Well, Darius, I mean, talk about how cool this moment is for you, man. It is your alma mater. You're getting to sing the national anthem to start this game and to be a part of College Game Day's anthem this year. I know you've been a huge sports fan forever, but what does this project mean for you in that world?
Oh, it's amazing. I've been saying for years I need to write a song that they could use for College Game Day. And finally, you know, they wanted to do some new talent. And they asked me and Laney and Cadillac 3 to do it. And it's an honor. it's like every Saturday morning, you're the first thing people see before they see football. And it's pretty awesome. I'm excited for the game. I'm doing the anthem because my Gamecocks are there, but it's just really cool to be a part of it.
Yeah, looking forward to that game. Actually, Mike's going to be calling that game. He'll be there as well. So your song is part of game day. You've sung national anthems everywhere. It's a monster event. You have albums out. You have one coming out we want to touch on. Is there anything else on the bucket list for you that you're looking ahead to that said, I want to do this someday?
Oh, goodness. I still want to play halftime at the Super Bowl or do the anthem at the Super Bowl. Those are the two things that are on my bucket list that I don't know if they're ever going to happen, but that's something I'd love to do.
Do you think if your Dolphins were in the Super Bowl and you sang the national anthem that you would start to cry?
Absolutely 100%.
No,
100%.
I did it. Oh my God, had to go there.
Yeah.
I mean, Darius, as we talk about your team some here too, you mentioned South Carolina, your alma mater. What's it been like for you? Shane Beamer going into year 3 now. I know this is a guy you've gotten to know a lot. What is the feeling around the program with him at the helm right now?
I mean, we're the Javelins, man. We're moving on up. It feels good to have Shane there. He's committed to the program. It's not a stop-off job for him. He wants to be there a long time. And I mean, we play, when you play in the SEC, it's a tough division, but we know we're not going to dominate like Alabama does or like Georgia does, but we'd like to have just a minute where we can do something special. And I think Shane's going to bring that to us.
How is he as a golfer? I'm assuming you guys have been out in the course together here. Have you taken money from him?
Oh, yeah, we played, I guess, a couple weeks ago. Shane can play. I mean, I did take some money from when he can play.
All right, so he could definitely play a little bit.
All right, he can't. Oh, there we go. We got him back. So switching over to the NFL, and your team we know is the Dolphins. A lot of high expectations there with that roster this team has, and Tua staying healthy, but in a tough division. How are you seeing your Dolphins this year?
You just hit on, I think, what our big question mark is. Can Tua stay healthy? If he stays healthy, I think when he was healthy last year, we were one of the better teams in the league. And I think if he stays healthy, we'll make the playoffs. Who knows what happens? But the AFC East has gotten so stacked now with Aaron Rodgers. I'm playing golf with Aaron and Pebble, and the one thing I said to him is, "You can't go to the Jets." He goes to the Jets, but it's stacked there. And but if Tua stays healthy, I think we got a really good shot.
So what's golf with Aaron Rodgers like then, Darius? I mean, he's been the story of the offseason here. We've seen him play at the match here, and we've heard a lot about his personality. What was your experience like with him out there? How is he as a dude?
Oh, we've been friends a long time. So I love Aaron. He's awesome to hang around with. He's funny. He can really play, obviously by the fact that he won it. But he can really play, and he's just a cool dude to be around. I've never been around Aaron when I didn't have a good time.
Yeah, he is a good dude. Now, I know we talked to Shane Beamer some about you being around the program, and obviously you're touring as well. But didn't you at some point catch a was it at a spring game where you caught a touchdown pass there or something or in that area that you can actually be an athlete?
I did. Yeah, the spring game I caught a touchdown, and I let Shane know when I made that move that I still have a year of eligibility. And but he didn't give me a scholarship. So I don't blame him, but I did. I'm a Gamecock supporter through and through. I mean, I'll do anything for the program. They know that, and I'm just great. I'm grateful to have Shane there doing what he's doing.
Darius, well, we're big supporters of you through and through. We've obviously gotten to see up close so much of your success. Everyone knows you from Hootie and the Blowfish, but God, as a solo artist, what you've been able to do. You got a new album coming out October 6th here. What's the journey been like getting to that point? How excited are you for people to hear this new project?
Oh, very excited. It's been 6 years since I've had a record out in country music, and I'm excited to get it out. I think it's a great record. It's called Carolyn's Boy. Anytime you put up new music, you're excited. And it's been, especially when it's been almost a decade since I put something out. So I'm excited for people to hear it, and I can't wait for October 6th.
Along those lines, I talk about taking people on the field to see what ball players do or in the locker room because it's something they don't do. Well, 99.9% of the world and country doesn't do what you do. So take us inside again. Carolyn's Boy, your mother Carolyn. This is the album. Just the emotions that went into doing this album.
Oh man, just tons. Because when you decide early to name it something like that, you know you want to make something special. And so there's a lot of songwriting and a lot of song listening to and to get the right stuff. So the emotions you have. My mom died young. She never got to see any of my success, and so this is me paying tribute to her. And so the emotions were high, and now I'm just ready to get it out.
So true. It's going to be an incredible album, and people definitely, again, October 6th, get ready to check that out. New music from you. You've been out touring. I'm sure that's been a ton of fun here, Darius, but are you also dialed in right now? We were explaining to people around here yesterday, long before we came to work for DraftKings, we've been playing DraftKings DFS in a group that involves you in here. You actually got the championship belt made a couple of years ago for the group and have still yet to win this thing. So how are you feeling walking into the 2023 season here? Are you ready this year or what?
Oh, this is my year. I told you all that on the text message the other day. This is my year. I'm going to dominate you guys this year. And I got to say to all of your listeners, my favorite day of football season is the Tuesday, because Tuesday, the trash talking and the jokes on our site are just, I laugh. I laugh. The hardest day of the week I laugh because you people are crazy, and I love it. But I'm dominating this year. I'm winning the belt.
Yeah, we've heard that out of you. This is my year. We heard it in 2019, 2020, 2021, and you're right. The smack talking is something that will never go public. Let's just say
exactly.
that right now.
That's for sure. Yeah, that's for sure.
It will definitely. But you play a lot of fantasy football, right? Don't you aren't you in more than a few leagues?
I do. I'm in 6 leagues this year. Yeah. Last year I was in 6 leagues and didn't make the playoffs in one.
Oh, God. All right.
So bad. That's mathematically impossible.
That's horrible.
Have you ever been a part of one of those terrible fantasy football punishments, Darius? Have you ever come in last or had a league that's got one of those bad punishments?
We have my national league. We started a punishment that it's not getting a tattoo or anything, but if you come in last place, you have to pay for dinner at the draft. And I think this year it was like $11,000.
Oh,
the dinner was.
Oh, God.
I remember that as a rookie.
Yeah.
I remember that as a rookie D lineman having to pay for dinner and getting that bill going. Oh my God, But Darius has a lot more money than me. So
yeah, that's a fair point, but still probably not want to come up off.
I didn't pay it.
Yeah.
Actually, I want to say this on television. It was Jimmy Westbrook from Little Big Town.
Okay.
He lost it. Sorry, Jimmy.
Better luck this year, Jimmy.
Hey, Darius, we were just last segment, we were talking about an NBA ref who used a burner account to tweet out and defend his position and other NBA refs. And he used the burner name Blair Cutliff. That was his fake burner name. So we were talking about if we ever used fake names anywhere, what it would be. Mine would be, not shockingly, because you know my love for Gordon Lightfoot, would be Don Quixote. That's where I was going to go on one of his songs. We were wondering, do you ever have a name like that you want to use if you don't want people to know you're going to be somewhere?
I do. It's Virgil Runnels.
Virgil Reynolds.
Virgil Reynolds?
Runnels, Runnels. That's Dusty Rhodes' real name.
Oh, okay.
Man. All right, there we go.
Well, you just told everybody that, so you may want to change that.
Oh, I don't use it anymore.
Oh, okay.
He wants people to know now when Darius Rucker's walking into the building. That's for damn
awesome.
sure.
That is awesome.
Oh, my God.
Exactly.
Darius, man, congratulations on all the success.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to the album. I'm looking forward to seeing you in Charlotte this weekend, and everyone's looking forward to hearing you as a part of the new College Game Day anthem. Congrats, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
I love you guys, man. Y'all take care.
Thanks, Darius. See you, man.
Oh, my God.
Such a good dude. I'll say, I've always said that, because people say, oh, what best athlete did you have on the show, or one you enjoy? And I said it's never been about the athletes for me, because I either played with them, played against them, watched them play, or have had them on my show over the last couple of decades. I said, to me, it's always been the entertainers that I enjoyed meeting. Like when I got to golf in Tahoe, golfing with Ray Romano, golfing with Miles Teller, Chase Crawford, the people outside of the world of sports. And we have gotten to know, I know people that have listened to us over the years, we've gotten to know Darius Rucker. I've known him since, I think it was 2007 at a golf tournament. And he is one of the nicest, most down-to-earth people, celebrities, but people that I have ever met and that we call friend. And one of the biggest reasons is, for me anyway, as a parent, you always you always want to see, how does somebody treat your kids?
Sure.
He in all honesty, he likes you guys better than me. In all honesty, he loves your mom.
He likes my sister-in-law,
Your
Jenny,
sister-in-law,
more
Jenny,
than the rest of us.
and your mother and Sydney, but even you and Jay. He likes them all more than me. But on a serious note, he treats my family so well. And he does that with others, because when you see him interact with people. But for me, that's been a personal thing to me, of how well he treats my family and how nice he is to people around him. He was nice enough to come and sing at my daughter's wedding. He said he wanted, we didn't ask him, he said he wanted to do it. He's just been such an incredible friend for so many years, and treating you guys well has really been the number one thing.
Well, and he mentioned, I mean, God, that South Carolina Notre Dame game.
Yeah.
I never imagined in my life that I would talk as a reckless bleep as I would.
To a celebrity.
One of the biggest music stars in my lifetime here.
And like he said, our texts.
Yeah, it's cash bleep that gets talked in there.
Yeah.
I didn't want to out Jesse, by the way, while we were talking to Darius. Because
Thank God,
before the
I
show
was
today,
so nervous you were going to do it.
we were talking, out getting ready, going over the rundown for the show, and Darius's love of the Dolphins, we talked about, it's well documented, and in the song Only Wanna Be With You, the line is, I'm such a baby, yeah, the Dolphins make me cry. And Jesse, I feel like a lot of people fell into a common trap.
Yeah, I thought he was talking about dolphins in the ocean. Like looking out on the ocean at a beautiful night, and there's like dolphins cresting the water, and he's like, tears coming down his face. He's like,
It's so beautiful.
It's so beautiful. The dolphins, they make me cry. And then obviously when I got a little older, I mean, I think I was in like high school when
Really?
I thought, yeah.
How'd you find out?
I'm listening to the radio, and a radio host is like, after the song plays, she's like, yeah, can you believe it? I always thought this was about dolphins in the ocean. No, turns out Darius Rucker, huge Dolphins fan, he's talking about the NFL team, and I'm sitting in the car like,
Yeah.
the Dolphins, the football team. It all makes sense. It all makes sense.
And even here, he had his jacket on. It had the Dolphin logo on it.
He was
so.
repping.
Yeah, I mean, nothing better than when you can, by the way, wear the jacket of your own clothing line through the NFL that you have got, and are now, I'm sure, adding even more money to the war chest on that. But
he's doing okay for himself.
I do feel like Jesse's got a lot of company in that. We did have to explain to super producer Brandon Newman, any of those references there, because he was not aware.
He was not aware.
He didn't know that Darius was Hootie from Hootie and the Blowfish,
He did not know
correct?
that.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I feel like on the list of things Darius probably has to be sick of, because we talk about this all the time when an actor has a role where that's the defining role of their career, and it's something they're so well known for, and people run up on him on the street and they ask him to say a line, or they call him a name, or they say a popular line from the show. I'd have to imagine up there for Darius has to be being on the street and people running up to him yelling, Hootie!
Oh, yeah.
Hootie!
Yeah. But one of the great things for him, though, is he had that career, one of the all-time great bands where they're traveling here and abroad and everything. But then he transitioned to a whole other genre in country music in an area where there weren't a lot of African Americans, and he's talked about that. And become a star there as well. Oh, by the way, and have #1 hits all over the place. So an incredible career for him. And he said it too. He said, I'll die on stage. He said, I will perform until the day I die.
We're like, dude, calm down.
Yeah, I mean,
Please, you've got so many years left, Darius.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe just pull Sam Hartman and like rip a rib out on stage or something and wear it.
He will be in his 80s or 90s, and they will help him up on stage, and he will be belting songs out.
Oh my God, he will keep it going. Well, he's going to get belted out all fall. Like you said, the first voice you're going to hear on a lot of Saturdays this fall. Coming up next, though, we'll get to a voice you're also going to hear a lot anytime news breaks in the world of college football, and we've got plenty of it as we head into night 1 of week 1 in the world of college football. We'll hit some news and notes with our great friend Nicole Auerbach from The Athletic next here on GoJo Golic.
Welcome back to GoJo and Golic. We are focused on college football and some big news. Star Utah quarterback Cam Rising doubtful for tonight's game against the Florida Gators, not expected to play. We'll talk more college football storylines coming up, but guys, this is obviously big news, and since we've made it through week 0 of college football, what better time, right, to get your predictions for the playoffs? We've seen enough.
Yeah, no,
We're ready.
I mean, we already got the little bit of a cheat sheet now. I don't think either of us is going to slot Notre Dame in yet, but we could.
We could.
Be bold. Dream big.
We got that in there. So yeah, we got that with that already. We've got coming up tonight. We mentioned Utah and Florida.
Right.
That Cam Rising news, huge for a Utah team that has won the Pac-12 back-to-back seasons, going up against a Florida team that also, lost Anthony Richardson, Graham Mertz, the Wisconsin transfer, getting ready to start there. And then we've got Nebraska, the Matt Rule era, kicking off against Minnesota as well. A lot of new out there. Very excited. We're going to need to get the college football picks on wax here, too, for our playoff picks. But, Dad, I want to hold that for a second here because we're a living, breathing organism on here. And we had a lot of news and notes happening in the world of college football yesterday. We had all of the conference commissioners meeting down in Texas, getting ready to try and figure out if there were going to be changes in the playoff format for college football in lieu of everything that's happened with the Pac-12 and really that looking like it's going to be a dead conference very, very soon. For more on that, very excited to welcome in our friend, Nicole Auerbach, senior writer over at The Athletic. You're also going to see her reporting on college football for NBC Sports all this fall, doing a fantastic job everywhere. Nicole, how you doing, bud?
It's wonderful to be with you guys. Congrats on the new show.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. We appreciate it. Congrats to you, obviously. Your work now adding to the fold this fall with NBC and all the great stuff you're going to be doing over there. And your work never really stops, Nicole, as conference realignment and all the conversation around it has a ton of tentacles, including what was going down in Texas yesterday. So all the conference commissioners, plus Notre Dame athletic director Jack Swarbrick, got together to discuss the playoff format and if there would be any changes in how that operated in light of all the news around the Pac-12 this offseason. What was, if any, of the fallout yesterday from those conversations that were had?
So they started to have those conversations about if there should be any adjustments to the model. I think it makes a lot of sense to a lot of people that maybe if you had a 6 conference champions, 6 at-larges with 5 power leagues and 10 total, well, maybe you just adjust that by 1 and you go to 5 conference champions and 7 at-larges in lieu of having a Pac-12. But basically, the commissioners came out of that meeting saying they need the dust to settle and they need to know exactly what the conference landscape is going to look like before they make any actual decisions. We also don't even know how large some of these conferences are going to be because the ACC still hasn't made their decision yet on Stanford, Cal, and SMU. So it makes sense to me that they want the dust to settle on all of that. But I do know we've heard from Greg Sankey very vocally in recent weeks that he wants this looked at. I can't imagine it would go to a 12 best format with all at-large spots because I think the value of having a conference championship to play for in so many leagues is so valuable. And as MAC Commissioner John Steinbrecher told us yesterday, it's one of the bedrock principles of the playoff itself and every iteration of it so far. So I do anticipate that if there is a change, it would go to that 5 and 7 model, but we are nowhere near actually finalizing that yet.
So if you can, in layman's terms, I'll say for me and for others out there, what do we think are the realistic options of what the playoff system will look like?
So I think it will look pretty similar to what has been approved, what everyone has talked about over the last couple of years, where you do have first round on campus games. They actually made some progress towards how they're going to figure out hotels and things like that for those games yesterday as well. But then you're going to have those next 3 rounds at neutral sites, bowl sites. And you are going to have a mix between conference champions, especially from those power conferences, and then at least 1 from the group of 5, and then the 6 or maybe 7 best teams left. So the highest ranked teams other than that. You still have the mechanism in place right now that the top 4 seeds need to be conference champions. So Notre Dame can't be that. But also that would mean that like the second place SEC team couldn't earn a bye as well. So I wonder if that would eventually also come under scrutiny and possibly change again, because I could see, let's say, Greg Sankey saying, hey, well, Georgia's 1, Alabama's 2. Why don't they both get byes? So keep an eye on that moving forward as well. But right now, top 4 seeds have to be champions. They get a bye. And then 5 through 12 play that opening weekend on campuses hosted by 5 through 8. So I'm really excited for all of this. We are getting really close to it actually being here, which is also kind of funny that we can't just live in this world for a little bit and then decide if there's changes. But that's how college sports work. We like to have committees working on problems that haven't yet arisen.
Boy, Greg Sankey speaking up's a real shocker.
Yeah, exactly. But he's not the one in that room I'm interested in because, Nicole, you mentioned we like to have committees. We like to get all these people together. We also like the drama around it. What was the temperature like in the room? Because you had Pac-12 Commissioner George Kliavkoff in the room with a lot of the folks that had sort of done him wrong around this round. So what was that scene like inside that room for these commissioners getting together in person?
Well, everyone coming in thought it was going to be awkward, as did I. And I have been at a lot of these playoff meetings over the last couple of years, and there has been some real tension after OU Texas happened, and then the rounds of realignment, the lower levels too. It was incredibly awkward. Like, these commissioners were not speaking to each other. I'd be at the hotel bar the night before, and they would not be interacting with each other. They wouldn't be saying hello to each other. This was an interesting dynamic because I think a lot of people in that room felt bad for George, and Greg Sankey spoke about that afterwards, that he had called him after kind of that August 4th day where the league lost 5 members and was down to 4 in the Pac-12. And he called him because he just wanted to express support. And I think there was a lot of sympathy, but he walked into the meeting like usual. He was his cheery self. He walked in with Mountain West Commissioner Gloria Navarez. He ran out to try to get away from us, and we kind of chased him down towards the elevator. He said he had to get to a flight. And then we were sort of like, okay, well, what's next? And he said, I'm looking forward to the future. And he was asked, well, what's the future for you? And he said, us winning a national championship. And then he darted up the escalator. So that was it for George Kliavkoff. But I do think that there was some underlying awkwardness, but everyone said that ultimately it was friendly, and you try to put those things aside. But there's just fundamental questions of, will the Pac-12 exist for the expanded playoff? Like, it may not. And so I think once the dust settles and we know if that league is going to try to backfill, or if, the Stanford and Cal go to the ACC and the other 2 schools just go to the Mountain West or the American, you have more clarity on that front, and you can kind of move forward without George Kliavkoff or a Pac-12 representative in the room beyond this season. But for the issues that are going to affect the playoff for this season, well, the Pac-12 is going to be a part of it, and so that makes sense. But I asked, and I was told that he did not have to leave the meeting at any point. But yes, obviously underlying awkwardness for all, but I think the meeting went about as non-awkward as it possibly could, considering the circumstances.
So, Nicole, just about a minute left. If you can give us a quick synopsis of what's happening with the ACC and Cal, Stanford, SMU.
Well, we're still in a holding pattern here. We're still waiting for the ACC to decide. And, they were supposed to have a meeting on Monday night, and it was potentially going to get to a vote. That meeting was canceled because of the on-campus shooting at UNC. Absolutely understandable, because leadership at UNC is preoccupied with real-life matters and real-life issues. So I don't think anyone was necessarily forcing or pushing to reschedule that vote. But as of right now, I do not know that it has been rescheduled. I personally, and I think a lot of the folks involved in this, were hopeful that maybe they could reschedule it for today or tomorrow so that this could be wrapped up before week 1 really gets started in earnest. But the question still is, do they have the votes? Are you able to flip someone based on the financials and the ability to move some of that money towards people who are hitting certain benchmarks in football and certain success metrics? That is appealing to a lot of people because it does address some of the revenue gap issues that some of these folks feel. But is it enough to change people's minds and allow them to add members to a conference across the country, add all of this travel, when they don't fundamentally believe that they're adding value to the league as a whole? So we'll see. This is a tight one. This is a close one. I think that's why they're not saying like they're scheduling a vote, because I'm not sure that they are guaranteed or 100% sure they have the votes yet.
A lot of plates spinning in the world of college football right now. We always appreciate Nicole Auerbach's insight onto all this. Nicole, thanks so much, bud. Enjoy the football tonight and enjoy week 1 coming up. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, guys. You too.
Again, football. We're talking football.
It's a beautiful thing.
Awesome.
NBC Sports college football insider Nicole Auerbach. Coming up next, though, we see so much of the bad a cut day. Let's get to some of the good here and enjoy a wholesome moment next.
Welcome back to GoJo and Golic. Guys, football is family, right? And sometimes it gets emotional. So on Tuesday, offensive lineman Cody Ford found out he made the Bengals' 53-man roster. And like we said, we see a lot of the bad stuff. Let's see some of the good stuff. Look at the exact moment he found out.
Okay, it's 4. It's 4. It's 4.
It's 4.
Ah! Cody, you made the team. I knew you would. How do you feel? Like you can breathe? Like you can breathe?
Leave me alone.
I'm gonna have this for the rest of my life, and your kids are gonna see this. You made the team, your 5th year. I hear church bells. What? Look, it's 4. Those bells literally just said there was 4. You made it. Cody Ford. You are on the 53-man. His agent just texted him. Are we good?
They ain't call my
No, I'm literally gonna. Yeah.
Nope.
No call on his work phone. Cody, you made it.
That is peak offensive lineman.
Sure is.
That
Leave
really
me
is.
alone.
Peak
Yeah.
offensive
Yeah.
lineman. I do not want to be on camera.
Yeah.
I am not going to be overly excited or overly disappointed by anything that happens. Leave me alone.
Do you know when I found out I made teams, how quickly I cracked a beer? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
it was like,
Sure.
woohoo!
She
on
seemed
the
like
team.
she was like, those are church bells. I was like, oh, is she? She's like, you made the roster.
Yeah.
Let's go make it official.
While we're here.
Yeah.
She was definitely more emotional than him, but that was peak O lineman. You are so
That's what
true.
I mean, I had enough buddies who were offensive linemen.
Yeah.
You knew offensive linemen
Yeah.
that played with you in the NFL. Like, that's almost always the dynamic. Those creatures want to be away from the spotlight there because if your name's usually getting called as an offensive lineman, it's rarely
It's a
something
bad
good
thing.
like this.
Yeah.
So
it's a bad
anticlimactic too that like the way you find out is like you just don't get a phone call.
Yeah.
Like you're
Oh,
just
yeah.
like, oh, it's 4 o'clock. Let's celebrate.
And you know it all. I mean, that last cut day, you're praying you don't hear from
Yeah.
anybody, whether it used to be a knock on the door or a phone call, which unfortunately you had gotten. I mean, but it's just, you
I was
don't
so
want
hungover when I got that knock on the door. Oh my God. I saw like 4 people in that room and I think only 2 cut me. It was a rough one for your boy. So congratulations to Cody. It was a great offensive lineman at Oklahoma too. Glad to see him.
It's a great moment. And again, I know a lot of people aren't as into it because a lot of it's the back end of the roster.
Oh yeah.
But you know, it's such a special moment in a good way to your dream continues, and in a bad way for some people's dreams are over in a blink of an eye.
Our buddy Ross Tucker over here at DKN says it best, and I saw him tweet this the other day. There's like 1,500 guys that got cut the other day.
Yeah.
And he goes, most of those guys were probably the best player in the history of their high school.
Yeah.
Probably came out of their town and were the man there, went to college with all those hopes and dreams. Like, there are such good players that don't make their way to this unbelievably exclusive club of the 1% of the 1% of the NFL.
It's where it starts to separate. I remember my first class at Notre Dame. We had 13 high school All-Americans in our freshman class going to Notre Dame, and I would say half or more of those guys rarely hit first team or didn't play a whole lot.
Yeah.
But you're the top, and then in college you go down to the bottom, and then you rise up, and if you could go to the next level, again you're down, close to the bottom to try and rise up again. It's amazing. But you're right. Those guys that got cut, or Ross is right, that they were probably the stars or best players out of their high schools.
So congratulations to those guys. Let's talk about the cream rising to the top in college football. This year, though, the guys who are going to try and make their name. So we said it's week 1 finally coming up here. We've got Power 5 football going on Thursday night, which means we got to get our college football playoff picks on wax right now. We already cheated a little bit having Notre Dame and SC play last weekend, get a little bit of a sample size there. Honor system, I did tweet mine out before those games were played last weekend.
Okay.
So you're really the only one living in sin here. And with that in mind, I will let you go first, Dad. Your college football playoff, top 4 teams that you believe are going to make it in the 2023-2024 national titles.
I already want to change mine and put Notre Dame in there. My wife is going to be really mad that I don't have it in there. But right now I have Washington at number 4. I love them coming out of the Pac-12. I know it's tough with USC and what they have, but Michael Penix Jr., those wide receivers, the rush ends that they have as well. I love, especially what that offense is going to do.
You could challenge between them and Ohio State, I think, will be the battle for the best offensive skill returning in college football this year.
Yeah. Number 3, I'm going with Clemson. And I think Notre Dame's going to beat Clemson, but that's an out-of-conference game.
Yep.
So it won't affect them.
I could feel ACC fans rising up in fire.
Yeah.
You're
tough.
Technically half in.
Yeah, whatever. You know
Leave
what?
it alone.
Football, we're not, so get over it. But Clemson, I mean, I think they're going to be the cream of the crop again there. And not what they've been in the past, but good enough to win that conference and be there in the Final Four in the end.
Garrett Riley coming over, their big offseason acquisition. Dabo Swinney went to work, got himself, forget portal players, which he's been notably against, but went and got himself a portal coach, brought Garrett Riley over, letting go Brandon Streeter, the architect of that TCU turnaround last year. Cade Klubnik walks in as the day one guy this year. There's none of the DJU controversy in that quarterback room. Will that be enough to elevate this offense back to the place and match the defensive front 7 talent that should still be otherworldly?
Still going to be there, yeah. Number 2, I'm going to go with Michigan. I think Michigan is going to fly through their schedule. Obviously, you have Michigan, Ohio State. All of a sudden, we're going to be talking about, is Ryan Day going to lose 3 years in a row to Michigan and have Michigan be the big champs 3 years in a row? Though, kind of crazy there to me, Wisconsin, if Michigan plays Wisconsin in a Big Ten championship game, Wisconsin's kind of an outlier to me on what you're going to get out of Luke Fickell on that team. But I'm going to go Michigan, number 2. And then, I mean, how do you not give Georgia the benefit of the doubt at number 1, though they've lost about every defensive player they've had in the draft the last 2 years, but they just keep churning them out there. New quarterback there as well. But still, schedule's in their favor as well, so tough to not have them number 1 right now. I'll be changing it in a few weeks and having Notre Dame up there after they beat Ohio State.
Of course, and we've got a lot of, I think the beauty of this football season is so many of those matchups do happen, right? In the Big Ten, the month of November is really the one you circle where you're going to get the Michigans, Penn States, and Ohio States all playing one another. The Pac-12 this year is a Thunderdome.
Pac-12 could be the deepest conference, and they're going away, and they could be the deepest conference.
And that is why I actually have some nerves about them in my top 4, which is going to look largely the same as yours.
It is.
We can go spoiler alert in my top 4 that I tweeted out. The only difference is going to be at 4 for me.
Yeah.
Texas, I don't know if they're back. I don't even know what that fully means anymore. But I think for them, the schedule lines up being a little easier than their Pac-12 counterparts, who are all going to play each other. That quartet of Utah, USC, Oregon, and Washington, all going to meet in a fiery hellscape in November. And I just don't know who's going to walk out of that with enough clearance from the rest of the group to count in here. I think Texas has a better shot in this year's Big 12.
Quinn Ewers doing his thing. He started out really well last year. And then
Quinn Ewers, Xavier Worthy, Kelvin Banks, a great offensive tackle. Jatavion Sanders, their tight end. I know Brock Bowers is the dude in college football.
Yeah.
This guy is going to be another name I think we see rise really big time up draft boards and name value here this season. So I think Texas can get in out of the Big 12. And then I'm with you. I go Clemson at 3, I go Michigan at 2, and I go Georgia at that number 1 spot there. And I can understand and hear people saying, yeah, Georgia, not that far removed from the conversations we're having about Ohio State and Alabama in terms of new quarterbacks coming in. And much like Alabama, new coordinator coming in. It's Mike Bobo round 2 at Georgia after you get Todd Monken going to the NFL to help Lamar Jackson.
It's amazing. We're giving Georgia the benefit of the doubt over Nick Saban in Alabama, but Georgia's done it the last 2 years. They put the, it's what have you done for me lately? And they've won 2 titles in a row going for the three-peat. We'll see. But it's hard to not have them at number 1 now. If going forward, like I said, I think Notre Dame has a really good shot. Obviously, the Ohio State game in a few weeks is going to be a big test for them. And then who else? It could be, if it's not Michigan, it's probably going to be Ohio State, right? I'm trying to think of teams you could slot in or take out.
And I think I saw Bill Connolly do a good article of the tiers of college football teams over at ESPN. And you look at the teams in the upper crust, Penn State, in the Big Ten, Tennessee potentially in the SEC as a spoiler, USC, Utah, Oregon, Washington, we all talked about in there, but Florida State, LSU also in the mix. There's a lot of teams that we feel like this year, because there are some question marks about the usual powers, that could make this college football season really interesting. We know some of those start off already this weekend. We're going to have Florida State and LSU, 2 of those teams. LSU made it to the SEC championship last year. Florida State thinks they're ready to challenge. We will talk to their quarterback, Jordan Travis, tomorrow, leading up to what should be one of the biggest games of college football this upcoming weekend. But coming up next.
Your mother already texted me.
Oh, no. Big time mad there. We'll see if we can get big time loud with Snoop Dogg at the Open next. All right, welcome back as we wrap up GoJo and Golic here. The only way we know how. This, that, and the third. 3 quick stories to send you off on into your day. As always, download, subscribe, rate, review, 5-star rating, DraftKings YouTube, DraftKingsNetwork.com, Samsung TV Plus. Dad, are you committing all those to memory yet?
Oh, I have them all. Just let me know when you want me to list them out, and then I'll ask you what they are.
All right, perfect. We're going to do this like a concussion test where we'll ask you at the end of the segment here, and we'll see if you were able to retain those. But as we get to this, that, and the third, let's start with this. We've got the U.S. Open in tennis going on right now. Been very entertaining in the beginning. And you see a lot of interesting faces out in the crowd. I saw Rob Gronkowski was out there the other night following the action, having a great time there. We've also gotten some complaints, though. A number of the players have spoken up about a particular smell around court 17. Take a listen.
Sometimes it smells food, sometimes it smells cigarettes, sometimes it smells weed. I mean, it's something that we cannot control because we're in an open space. There's a park behind. People can do whatever they want.
I smelled it actually today also. Yeah, when we 17, yeah, when we warmed up, I smelled it also, and then in a match not so much. But I told my coach like I smell it too, you know, and in a warm up also.
It's everywhere, literally everywhere. The whole court smells like weed.
In New York or everywhere you play?
No, years. I mean, I played once, so it was only once so far. But yeah, court 17 definitely smelled like Snoop Dogg's living room. In a way. What do I think that is?
Because it's close to the park?
I don't know. It have nothing to do with it. I don't know, but you can smell it.
Some New Yorkers love weed as a New Yorker.
I'm very happy for them. This conversation is going the wrong way, man.
That last voice, Alexander Zverev, he looks like a guy who probably knows where that smell was coming from.
Yeah.
If I'm just judging a book by its cover, he looks like a guy who understands.
But that was such a, they were like, he was like, it smells like weed. And they're like, why do you think that is?
Yeah.
Because someone's smoking weed. What do you mean?
I mean, are you kidding? They're smoking weed by court 7. Said there was a park there. I mean, seriously, I loved it. It smelled like Snoop's living room. That's a great line.
You know what? It's interesting, and I always talk about there are fun smells to encounter in the wild. You know, fresh cooked bacon.
Right.
The dying embers of a fire as
Yeah.
you walk by
Yeah.
someone's backyard here. Hot dogs being cooked on the street outside of the Staples Center. Like, listen, I'm not a prude, like, been around weed, partaken a time or two. I don't know if that's a smell that necessarily, if you're just randomly, especially getting ready for an athletic event, if that's one you want hitting you upside
But
the
it does
mouth.
hit it, and you know exactly what it is.
Exactly.
It hits hard.
It's definitely a distraction. They're all noticing it, and they're like, yeah, it's like definitely affecting us.
Yeah,
I would
it's
not
there.
want to be smelling that right before I
They're
play a
getting it
game.
secondhand. Well, speaking of Snoop Dogg, you missed your
Secondhand
opportunity
smoke.
with him.
I know, yeah, still one of my greatest regrets of all time. Had the chance to smoke with Snoop Dogg when I was in college. I was afraid of getting randomly drug tested. I hadn't played up until that point, and so I had to turn down that opportunity. And my two biggest regrets in life are not continuing piano lessons and not smoking drugs with Snoop Dogg.
They're so different, those two regrets.
They
Yeah,
really
no,
are.
very opposite
That
ends of the
they're-
spectrum.
yeah.
But, you know, hey, listen.
Would have been interesting had you smoked with Snoop and then played the piano, what that would have sounded like.
That would have been very interesting.
Mozart, don't you
Maybe
think?
ended up on a
Yeah.
track, and maybe my life is completely different, and I'm not here with you two guys. But that would be a shame because then we wouldn't get to watch this weird stuff. We have one weekend now as a break before we begin NFL football. But if you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail. That's day one stuff. And thankfully, fans of the Cleveland Browns are going to be prepared for anything this year.
They are prepared. We have this video of a Cleveland Browns fan encountering a rabid fan, and I do mean this thing literally could have rabies. I looked into this, and the guy said that before he grabbed this possum, he YouTubed a video and how to grab a possum, and it said to grab it by the tail. So
Well,
he
what
did
else
it.
would you grab? You needed, do you think?
Behind
the
neck?
body? The body?
Yeah, the neck or the head
Really?
behind. I mean, listen, I'm just saying.
The tummy?
Different
I don't-
animals demand a different spot to grab them
I
out
agree,
in the wild.
but if you had to make an assumption on where you would grab a possum, wouldn't you think it would be?
I mean, if you had to grab an alligator, where would you assume to grab it by? You might think the tail also based on the structure there, but you're supposed to grab it behind
Right,
the head.
I would think maybe you grab a possum on its tummy, because my fear would be I'm holding it by its tail and it,
Yeah.
you know.
it goes the reversal.
You know why
Yeah.
I would never have that fear? I'd never grab a possum.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
listen,
What is
they
he
were
doing?
They were confronted by a possum in the stands. The possum came to their dojo.
Go the
and so
other
they had to
way.
defend themselves.
Go possum, you can go here.
What if it
I
was
will
getting
not
ready
go-
to attack your family? And
Well,
you have to
then
step
I
in?
would jump in and
by the
step
way,
in.
Possums
Okay.
are terrifying.
I know they are.
The guy said, though,
hate
this
them.
possum was very fine. It was calm. It was like probably scared because it somehow found itself in the sea of Browns fans. And the guy said he picked it up, no big deal, put it in the box, and hopefully they.
But that possum, you saw that possum was trying to get to him, man.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
possum.
'cause he picked him up by the
yes,
tail.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not a great
That possum wanted a piece of that arm.
But he didn't get any.
Oh,
he got put in the
man.
box
Also, a reminder: you can learn anything on YouTube.
Boy, you really can.
real quick, in the moment.
Obviously, because I was going to say, how many beers did that guy have before he did that? But he must not have to have the wherewithal to go to YouTube.
Yeah.
Before he, okay, I'm going to pick up this possum. Wait a minute, let me go to YouTube first. How to pick up possum. Seriously, you can find anything online.
Honestly, it's your one Google or YouTube search away. I've fixed sinks that way. It helps me every time. Dad, I know you're going to hate to hear this, but because you did a good job when we were kids, making sure to go and show us all how to jump a car, how to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
Almost every time the situation comes up, I got to YouTube.
Do you forget how to jump a car? You don't know at the red and black. I mean, it's not that
and it's one
difficult.
of those things I don't want to get wrong, because then if you get it wrong, you can drain the battery and all of a sudden things go wrong. I'd rather be safe than sorry, and YouTube's an easy place to make sure you're safe and not
How many times have you had to YouTube it? I mean, seriously, should you have to YouTube it once if you don't remember what I said? I mean, it's not different. There's not a lot of steps.
Yeah,
Our brains are built different now. They're
Yeah.
like a sieve. You just tell us something and it just
Leaks out, huh?
disappears. Yeah. mhm.
The internet has ruined us all here.
Yeah.
So our same
Wow.
savior is also the same thing destroying us. What a microcosm of life. Let's get to the third, though, and talk about something way cooler than that. Young people making tons of money.
Wow.
One of my favorite traditions in training camp, when they do either the rookie talent show or they make a rookie get up and sing a song, is the introduction. It is almost always a certain cadence. And we saw that play out for Baltimore Ravens rookie wide receiver Zay Flowers as he delivered some very fortunate news about his life that wowed his Ravens teammates yesterday.
Zay Flowers, Boston College, $7 million.
school signing bonus is almost always the introduction there. And there's got to be, because I know everyone's different about their money. And some guys might be self-conscious about saying that out loud, letting everybody know. Zay Flowers stepped up 10 toes, loud and proud, and almost broke Odell Beckham Jr., flipped over a chair there. $7 million signing bonus for the young man. Go off, kid.
So we didn't do that when I got into the league. Listen, I would have stood loud and proud and said $7 million, but this would have been my name, school, signing bonus. Mike Golic, University of Notre Dame, $17,500 signing bonus.
I mean,
you know what? Nobody would have been bowled over by that one. They'd have laughed at me.
I think some of your fellow rookies towards the end of the draft might have been like, let me hold some.
There weren't many. I was the 10th round. That would only be the 11th and 12th round guy. That would be it. 17.5, and my first year salary was $62,500, where now I believe rookies can't make less than $500,000.
Yeah, it's a bit of a different ball game. I was an undrafted free agent. My signing bonus, I would rarely. Kind of depends on where you slot there.
Right,
some guys don't get anything. Some guys get something. Mine was $7,500, which at that point, no one had ever handed me $7,500.
You didn't get drafted. You didn't get drafted and only got $10,000 less in your signing bonus than I did getting drafted.
Well, yeah, but the rookie minimum that year was also $420,000.
That's true. Yeah.
And I didn't see a dime of that because they cut me at the camp when I was running over there. So
why?
Yeah, no, tough one to miss out on.
But oh man, those signing bonuses, and then I saw the video is always fun when the rookies have to take the vets out by position sometimes, and they gave the rookie as a joke the one bill, and it was $21,000.
And he was like,
yeah, I mean, if I'm a rookie first rounder, I got no problem with that. But other than that, man, I'm like, no.
It is nice now that most of those have turned into pranks from vets who understand we make so much more than these guys. Why would we actually stick them with that? Even if they got a lot of money, they're not going to do the rooks like that. They take care of them pretty well.
Yeah, that is true.
So.
That is true.
Nice to see that there. That being said, Zay Flowers, all of a sudden, I'm sure going to have a lot of friends with a new business idea that want to talk to him.
Or a lot of friends that aren't reaching into their pocket when they're out at the bar or restaurant.
Yeah, I'll pay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Short arming
it. We hope you reach into your pocket and maybe don't give us money, but a 5-star rating and a review wherever you get your podcast. Check us out on DraftKings YouTube. Thanks so much, guys. We will be back to finish off the week with you and react to some college football tomorrow. Let's go.